Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. In the last part, we explored the ancient castle of Ikana, and now it's time for this area's boss fight.
Oh, insolent one who has brought the unthinkable into a land as dark as Ikana. My servants have fallen namelessly before the light that guides you. However, the darkness in which my servants live is, after all, fleeting. You shall see with your own eyes just what kind of thing true darkness really is.
Before we get into the fight itself, put on the captain's hat and approach him for another cutscene.
Oh, Kita! Is it not Captain Kita? But you're so... tiny! I was nearly fooled by what you have done.
I don't know why that scene's there, it's just kind of funny. So, time to get started on the actual fight themselves. Kita's two knights, which I think actually do have names, let me look that up in a moment, when we have a cutscene that plays. They are basically immortal for the most part, but their only attack is really trying to surround you and slash you with your sword. And you can just kind of ignore the main part of the fight by using the Bremen mask, because they will follow you like the leader you appear to be. And they'll even go into a little march animation, it's cute. I honestly really like as well how they kind of look at each other for a second before they actually start dancing. But while they're dancing, it's a good opportunity to use fire arrows to burn the two curtains that came down and bring light back into this room because we actively need it to win this fight. At this point, we just need to fight them like they're almost like one of the Garos, actually. You want to use your spin attacks, especially after they're still dancing, to get them stunned real quick, and when they take enough damage, they collapse on the ground in a pile of bones. You then reflect light at them to kill them for real. In a way, it's sort of like using bombs on fallen apart stealth foes in certain games to actively kill them. Just nowhere near as explosive. But then it's time for the king himself, who is by and large the same, only he will not try to march to you. The big thing is his different attacks. While he can do the various slashes, even a jump slash, he actively has an entire phase where he can go invincible, separating his head from his body. And when he does that, the body turns transparent and will just try to attack you while the head does all sorts of charges. I think it also can try to just keep you one place by tackling you, but it's not too hard. The king and his lackeys, which by the way I looked up that they don't actually have any real names besides just lackeys, can do some real damage even with your defense doubled, but as long as you have as many hearts as I do, it's very easy to just kind of get them into a corner and spin attack them until they get knocked down, and then you just gotta reflect light, and the fight is over.
You're blocking me! Get out of the way, I can still get him! Blocking you? The reason he beat us is because you were so feeble! Don't blame this on me! What? Just try saying that again to my bony face! Feeble, 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 feeble. Shut up already! Don't look at me, I was once called the best swordsman in all of Ikana. The greatest swordsman in all of Ikana. You? Feeble. Draw your weapon! Huh? I'm telling you to draw your sword! How?
Will you stop? What fools! Haven't you begun to understand? The kingdom being ruined and us left in this state. Isn't it petty little battles like this that have caused it? Believing in your friends and embracing that belief by forgiving failure. These feelings have vanished from our hearts. It It all happened after somebody thrust open the doors of that stone tower. You who bring light into darkness, I am the king of Ikana Kingdom, Egos du Ikana. The spell binding that had been cast upon us was broken by that light which you carry. To return true light to this land, you must seal the doors of Stone Tower where the winds of darkness blow through. But Stone Tower is an impenetrable stronghold. Hundreds of soldiers from my kingdom would not even be able to topple it. It is far too reckless for one to take on such a challenge. And so, I grant you a soldier who has no heart, one who will not falter in the darkness. You shall remember this song.
You learned the Elegy of Emptiness. It's a mystical song that allows you to shed a shell shaped in your current image. By playing the song while wearing masks to assume different forms, you'll be able to leave up to 4 empty shells, one for each form.
This soldier who has no heart is your twin image, a shell of yourself that you will shed when your song commands it. On my kingdom, shine the light of justice.
So, excusing the thoughts of any creepypastas directly inspired by this particular statue, fun thing, the face of that Link statue is a caricature of Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario and Zelda. And that is the song we actively need in order to access the dungeon for this area. We're not doing the dungeon in this 3-day cycle, we might as well head up that way. Also, now that light's actually shining down in the first room of Ikana Castle, the 4 rededs that respawn in there are now one of the best ways to get money in the game, at least for the rest of this 3-day cycle, and you have to get another powder keg on the next one. Because that's a minimum of 60 rupees you can get, a max of 80, and considering how quick that is to get, that's overall pretty good. Technically, we've still yet to get the best method of grinding money in the game, but this is another good one in the case you're trying to get your wallet maxed. And now I'm back in Clocktown, still very confused at the time for why the post office minigame isn't available. Again, apparently it is only on the first day, just that I have distinct memories, and people online very much think you can do it on the second day. And maybe you can in the 3DS version, but I can't. You're disrupting me! But I don't know if I just entered another universe or something, because I remember being able to do that other places rather, but oh well. So now with that time appropriately wasted, let's start the climb up towards the dungeon. With that said, if for some reason you're just playing the Japanese version, don't bother doing this 3-day cycle, unless you think you can get the dungeon done. It probably is honestly very possible. But for getting more things done at once, I'd recommend waiting until the next 3-day cycle. You might wonder why I'm pointing out the Japanese version particularly shouldn't be doing this. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. I love the Stone Tower theme. It's so good. So, the climb up to Stone Tower, you can get to this point no problem before the castle. But getting to the actual dungeon itself, or the other owl statue in this area, requires the use of the Elegy of Emptiness we just learned, which is one of the slowest songs to play in the game, by the way, on top of how it works. But the main puzzle here is there's 3 switches in several groups, and you need to press them in certain orders to make the blocks get to the next position in certain orders without the blocks blocking each other. This requires experimenting with which switch does what first, and then keeping them held down with a statue you spawn with the Elegy of Emptiness. With that said, you can use any of your transformation masks to create statues, like the information when we first got the song said, but to be completely honest with you, you should never use the Deku mask for this. because the Deku Mask statue weighs the same weight as the Deku transformation and thus cannot really push down any pressure switches. With that said, the inverse is true for the Goron Mask. The Goron Mask's statue weighs more than any of the other statues combined, and can press down larger switches wherever there are some. But this does allow us to get into something kind of interesting about the LG of Emptiness with how it works with the transformation masks in particular. Link, by and large, looks the same, barring the caricature of Shigeru Miyamoto's face for the statue. But the other transformation masks, their statues are based off of their original bodies. So, like, we got a statue of Darmani here. With the Zora mask, we're gonna have one of Mikau, and I guess that makes the Deku mask based off another Deku's soul kind of weird, but I'm sure there's a reason for that. The stone tower itself, though, is where a lot of fan theorists go real deep into theorizing about the purpose of this place. Some of them connect to the Termina is Purgatory, Link is dead kind of theory. A lot of people go into Termina being a separate land from Hyrule overall. Hello, Mikau. And this being maybe a tower that some people built to try to get close to the golden goddesses, and then they were shut down by the goddesses, and thus, if you look on the bottom of the blocks that we're getting on top of from below, or with the statues that are similar to this on the Termina Field area, they're like licking the Triforce right next to their ass, and it is, I guess in the eyes of Hyrule, that would be blasphemy overall. I think this area is very interesting for aesthetics like that, even if ultimately the game probably just has them to look cool, I would guess. It makes me wonder if there is like a behind-the-scenes lore bible for this game in particular, but given that continuity for Zelda doesn't really matter barring references on the whole, it probably doesn't actually matter to any real extent. Like, there's an occasional Zelda theory that ends up true. I'm looking at the Hero Shade one for Twilight Princess, for instance. And there's even ones within their own games that get confirmed. Like, there's a theory about a character in this game that you might already have started sprouting if you've been paying attention, and that might be true. But a lot of it's just kind of read into it what you will. It probably doesn't matter to future or later games, or past games even. Now that we have all the transformation masks, though, I guess I can finally talk about this as well. Given how Smash Brothers is nowadays, with them reworking characters, even some of the older ones slowly, like turning Link as he was in 64 through 4 into the Breath of the Wild Link with its different enough moveset in Ultimate, I was honestly kind of bummed they didn't do the same thing for Young Link in Ultimate. I was kind of sad they didn't like give him any Majora-based movesets. I think that would have been a very good call. Maybe they'll do that in the next game, whenever a Smash 6 actually happens. We know that game's gonna have a smaller cast just on the aspect of how impossible it would be to get all those licenses going again for another new game. So maybe if they rework a lot of old characters there to update their movesets to be more reflective of their series nowadays, like maybe Mario has like a Cappy ability of some sort or something like that. It'd be interesting to see what they could do with that. Not that I think we're not gonna, I don't think we're gonna see a Smash until maybe, an entirely new Smash until maybe even like 2 consoles away from us, Nintendo-wise, because for dating's sake, this is currently July 8th, is when this is being recorded. Like, we're getting more and more evidence that's just showing that a Switch successor is very real. And whether or not it'll be backwards compatible or not, we're not sure. It could honestly be the equivalent of just like a Switch Pro, but I'm honestly thinking it's gonna be more of a complete internal rebuild, follow-up kind of deal. I'm interested to see what they could do with a lot of that stuff. So, if you know anything about this area, we are getting relatively close to the top at this point. This is in total, admittedly with a bit of me messing up here and there, about a 6-minute climb. Maybe 4 to 5 minutes if you remember all the switches offhand. I used to be able to remember which switches did one, just press them in the right order from there, but it's been long enough since I last had that I don't haven't memorized anymore. At the top of this area is the owl statue that leads us to the dungeon directly. If memory serves, in the Japanese version, this owl statue isn't here whatsoever. So if you want to come back up here, you gotta walk the long way. And that's kind of annoying because for the purposes of this LP, if you're following along and playing the Japanese version anyway, you're gonna need to do that. But also for a couple of reasons you need to do that, period, in the dungeon. More on that when we actually do the dungeon portion. And here we are in front of the dungeon and at the owl statue. The front of this dungeon I've always found pretty cool because it's rather unique for the series. The front of this, the dungeon is a screaming face pointing upwards as if telling the goddesses to go screw off. And I remember thinking for years as a kid that maybe there was a chest on top of the finger, but I don't think there actually is. I know there's also somewhere re-deads in Stone Tower itself, but I've seldom ever seen them. But we're not gonna actually do the dungeon this 3-day cycle. You could do it, but for a couple of reasons, I'm gonna hold off until later. For now, let's get back to Clocktown and go do the Honey and Darling Shop's 3rd day minigame to wrap up that side quest. And then we'll talk about what we're gonna go do from there. Now, if you thought the basket bomb was easier than the bomb shoe bowling, prepare for the easiest minigame of the 3. It looks like we have a visitor, honey. I wonder if it's a customer, darling. Oh, were you the one who got a perfect score 2 days in a row? Do you want to play again? Today is targeting shooting day, isn't it, darling? 1 game is 10 rupees. Hit all the targets and the time takes us for us to dance through 1 song. But if you fall from this platform, you're out, isn't he, darling? Are you ready? Start the music. It's just an arrow shooting minigame where you have to hit the targets. You do have to keep in mind the rotation of both the targets themselves and the platform. And I think if you shoot them enough, you might be kicked out. But it's super easy. Like I'd say this is honestly the easiest bow and arrow shooting minigame in the N64 games between the slingshot ones and the Gyarados horseback shooting minigame and all that. This is super easy. Honey, he got a perfect score 3 days in a row. This is all we have left to give him, honey. And we stole a piece of their love. I wonder, are we truly happy, darling? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not gonna judge how you live your lives. But that's really about the only side quest left for me to do at this point. Also notably, if you deposit rupees past a certain point, you still get rupees. Not really needed. If you're playing along and you still don't have the 5,000 rupee piece of heart, I recommend going back and doing a lot of rupee grinding, either using the re-deads or the Takuri method, because that's just a good use for the rest of this 3-day cycle. For me, though, I'm gonna play the Song of Time and rewind, because it's time for us to go tackle the final of the 4 dungeons and any setup I want to do on that particular 3-day cycle. But with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 25, we're gonna go do just so. See you guys then.